After my husband died in battle, I took in a man. He was simple-minded but possessed brute strength, helping me with chores and shielding me from troubles. Despite his tall, robust build, he always trailed behind me, calling Spring like a lost pup. Later, when people from the estate of Marquis Lennon came searching, I learned he was their long-lost young lord. After receiving rare, specialized medicine, his mind gradually cleared. Without a hint of hesitation, he left that very night. I went to the estate, only to be scorned and shooed away by the servants. Our young lord says he knows no one named Spring. He denied me. I breathed a sigh of relief. Days ago, I received a letter from the northern frontier. My husband isn't dead, but has earned military honors and become a commander. I'm going to find him. The journey to the northern frontier is long and rugged. I need travel funds. Your young lord had a hearty appetite and consumed much of my food. Please compensate me with 2 taels of silver. Once I receive these 2 taels, I'll have no further ties to your young lord. The northern frontier is too far. The 2 taels I obtained from the state of Marquis Lennon were spent long before I arrived. I exchanged for some flatbreads, scrimped and saved, and finally reached the northern frontier after a month. From afar, I spotted someone waiting for me in front of the official post. He was extremely tall and burly. He looked around and spotted me the moment I appeared. Then delight spread across his sun-darkened face. Spring shung and lifted me by the waist onto the horse's back, settling me securely. He then took the reins and walked ahead, leading the horse for me. He was now a commander and had been allotted his own quarters. The place wasn't large, but it was enough for 2. After years apart, we were finally reunited. He was thrilled, and so was I. By the time we got home, it was already dark. Shungen fetched a basin of warm water, knelt down, and washed my feet. Despite his large frame, crouching before me, he was almost as tall as I was sitting. His movements were gentle, the calluses on his fingertips brushing against my feet, tickling slightly. I heard him say, "Spring, you've had a hard journey. If I weren't forbidden to leave my post without orders, I would have come back for you. A year ago, I led my squad to pursue remnants of the Golden Horde's troops, but unexpectedly fell into an ambush and tumbled down a cliff. Fortunately, I was rescued by nearby villagers and have been recuperating in the village ever since. My comrades couldn't find me and assumed I had died, even sending a letter to my home. Spring, it must have been very hard for you this past year. Hasn't it? Hard. It was a bit difficult at first. Shung and I grew up together since childhood, knew each other from a young age, and confessed our feelings early on. The night before he was conscripted to the northern frontier, we hastily held a wedding ceremony and became husband and wife. After that, he was in the northern frontier, and I was in Hawaiian, relying solely on letters to express our longing for each other. The news of Shung En's death in battle reached the village. I fainted on the spot. Everyone sighed in sympathy. Some pitied me for being widowed at such a young age. Some called me a jinx. Others coveted the family's small plot of land and the compensation money that was sent back with the letters. So, shortly after hastily arranging Shung En's funeral, matchmakers came forward trying to persuade me to remarry. After I repeatedly refused multiple times, some even developed ill intentions. He wanted to force a marriage by making it a done deal, sneaking into my courtyard in the middle of the night. I scared him off with a kitchen knife. I didn't dare close my eyes all night. I realized this couldn't go on. I was afraid I couldn't protect the family. Just when I felt helpless, I found Adrian Liu. At that time, he was disoriented and didn't know his own name, just kept repeating Liu. So, I simply called him Six. He was a bit simple-minded, gentle by nature, and not prone to hurting others. Yet, he was tall and robust, making it hard for most people to overpower him. After only a moment's hesitation, I took him home. I gave him food and dressed him in clean clothes left by Shingen. I instructed him, "Outside, you must call me wife." Six nodded, then stared blankly at me. "And at home?" I thought for a moment, "Call me sister." After spending some time together, I realized Six had the heart of a complete child. When he did something wrong, he'd be afraid. When scolded, he'd feel sad. But after eating the sweet sugar cakes I made, he'd happily wrap his arms around my waist and say he wanted to eat sister sugar cakes for a lifetime. He remembered every kindness I showed him in his heart. So when the matchmaker came to our door again, before I could even react, he rushed out with a stick. "Get out. All of you get out. Whenever you come, my wife becomes unhappy. Don't come back again." The matchmaker ran away in fright, stammering incoherently. "Spring, don't be foolish. Are you really choosing this fool to be your husband?" "Yes, I am," I smiled. "Fools are good. Fools are obedient." The matchmaker left cursing and grumbling. Seeing me smile, Six would run over and shake my arm. "Sister is in a good mood. Make sugar cakes to eat." He was too simple-minded, so I always indulged him. "All right, I'll make sugar cakes for you." I also secretly tried to find Six's family, but after searching for a long time, I found nothing. I told the matchmaker that Six was obedient, but not long after, these words came back to embarrass me. "Six is being disobedient. He no longer calls me sister, but instead addresses me as Spring." I pretended to be angry, but he argued back with conviction. "What kind of couple calls each other sister? Big brother Lou next door calls his wife Autumn, so I'm going to call you Spring." I rubbed my temples. "We're not a real couple. We're just pretending." Six hugged his quilt, barred by me, outside the door. He pouted pitifully. "So you won't sleep with me, hold me, or kiss me?" "No." I pushed him away and closed the door. "Stop making trouble. If you keep this up, I'll abandon you." Six fell silent. Perhaps he didn't dare speak anymore. Earlier, when I took him to gather firewood in the mountains, he chased a rabbit and ran too far. By the time I realized and tried to find him, he was already gone. I searched from dawn until dusk. Finally, I found him beneath an old tree root, clutching the cloth tiger I embroidered for him. He looked up and saw me. His eyes instantly lit up. He rushed forward and wrapped his arms tightly around my neck. I felt a warm wetness seep into my collar. "Don't abandon me. I'll be obedient. I'll work hard. I'll protect you. Six is useful. Please don't cast me aside." He thought I had left him behind. I patted his back, my heart melting completely. "I'm not abandoning you. Look, I want to make a lantern for you." "A lantern?" "Yes." I put the lantern inside a little firefly's belly. "Let me show you." I took his hand and led him to the reed beds, where we watched the fireflies for half the night. Six looked at me, his expression lonely, but still, he obediently gathered his quilt and returned to his own room. After that, he never brought it up again, though whenever he was happy, he'd still call me Spring. Spring. Inside the room, the candle flame flickered as Sheng and listened quietly. I studied his expression and asked, "Sheng and, do you blame me?" Sheng and shook his head. "You had it hard back then. If you found someone to protect and care for you, I'm actually relieved." He smiled. "And what happened after that?" I froze for a moment, then forced a faint smile. "After that, he was found and taken back by his family. I was also found and taken back by my family." I leaned down and wrapped my arms around Sheng's neck, holding him tightly. "It's so wonderful that we're reunited again." That night, for some reason, I dreamed of Six. I dreamed of the day he left. Suddenly, imposing soldiers from a noble house arrived, along with a man who looked like a steward. As soon as he saw Six, he rushed over with tears streaming down his aged face, knelt, hugged Six's legs, and cried out, "Young lord, this old servant has finally found you." They were going to take him away, and Six thought they were with the matchmaker, here to bully me again. So he fearlessly shielded me. The men didn't dare harm him, so they seized me instead, relying on their numbers. "Young master, take this medicine. It will make you better." The steward handed him a bottle of medicine. Six, fearing they might harm me, swallowed the medicine without a moment's hesitation. Then, Six ceased to exist in this world. Only Adrian Liu, the young lord of the estate of Marquis Lenning, remained. The steward said the young lord had been ill since birth, often suffering from mental confusion. Fortunately, an old miracle working doctor had prescribed him a remedy. The prescription was precious, its ingredients rare and hard to find. but it worked wonders for him, and it couldn't be interrupted. Yet a year ago, while returning to his hometown to pay respects to his ancestors, the young lord was suddenly ambushed by bandits. In the frantic escape, he became separated from his guards. That's how I ended up finding him. After taking the medicine, Six's gaze became clear and lucid. He looked at me with indifference, a slight frown creasing his brow. After just one glance, he averted his eyes. Uncle Chun, leave some silver for this woman. We're returning to the capital. His way of addressing me had shifted from sister to Spring, and now to this woman. I wasn't oblivious to the distance in his tone. Come to think of it, it must be hard for the young lord of a marquis household to stoop to eating and living with a country bumpkin like me. I politely declined the silver, thought for a long while, and could only muster a simple safe travels. I wonder if he even heard it. He stepped into the opulent, finely crafted carriage, without so much as a glance back. Truth be told, I hadn't planned on seeking him out, but when news came that Sheng and was still alive, I was overjoyed. Hearing he'd been allotted a house in the northern frontier, I quickly packed my bags and settled affairs at home. After all the calculations, I still didn't have enough for the journey. Left with no choice, I thought to borrow some silver from the Marquis estate, counting on my past connection with Adrian Liu to secure the loan. After all, if I hadn't found him back then, he might have frozen to death in the mountains. But in the end, I was too naive. Someone of such noble standing would never wish to be associated with the likes of us. The memory of being driven out of the Marquis's manor remains vivid. The servant looked at me as if I were a beggar, saying, "The young lord says he knows no one called Spring. The northern frontier is known for its simple, honest folkways. The neighbors living near us are all relatives of Sheng and's colleagues and friends. They are incredibly warm-hearted, helping me furnish the house and taking me to see the sights of the northern frontier. Life here is uncomplicated. Sheng goes to the military camp to train soldiers every day and returns only at sunset. I prepare meals while waiting for him, and during the day, I can chat with the neighbor sisters, go shopping together, or pick out storybooks. The Golden Horde's military strength has waned in recent years, so battles are rare, and life on the northern frontier remains relatively peaceful. After a year here, I've actually gained several pounds. The clothes I brought with me no longer fit, which worried me for a long time. Maybe I should eat less. If I slim down, I can still wear them. Shungen looked at me and laughed. Why lose weight? You look beautiful just as you are. He leaned in and wrapped his arms around my waist. Every time I hold you, I feel like there's hope for our future. I nudged him. Smooth talker. Then I looked back at the garment. What a pity. Most clothing in the northern frontier is made of coarse linen, nowhere near as comfortable as southern garments. Shung and rested his chin on my shoulder. Then let's return south and have new ones made. I sighed. Who knows when we'll actually be able to go back? 3 months later, meeting my astonished gaze, Shung and said, some time ago, the Golden Horde submitted a surrender letter to our southern way. The court has decreed that the northern frontier no longer needs such a large garrison. Half the troops are to be withdrawn. My name was on the list. Shung and wrapped his arms around me in relief. Spring, we're going home. Oh, this is lovely. I'll buy some to take back. It's a northern frontier specialty, an absolute must. Buy. Spring, come look at this. You definitely don't have this in the south. We were shopping on the street for supplies to use on the journey and bring home. The streets had been unusually crowded lately. The crowd surged. I overheard voices from the neighboring stall. Sister Lin is from the capital, right? The capital is so bustling. Yes, the capital has many nobles and plenty of excitement. What kind of excitement? Not long ago, the young lord of the estate of Marquis Lenning ran away from his wedding, causing quite the scandal. His fiancée was the prime minister's daughter. Why? Who knows? I just heard he's been searching for someone. A woman, I think, named Spring. Spring something. Lost in thought, my companion nudged me. Spring, have you picked what you want? It's time to head home. I quickly nodded, handed the items to the vendor, paid, and walked back with them. After a few steps, I couldn't help but glance back. Recalling what they'd just said, I felt stunned. Is Adrian Liu looking for me? The thought lingered briefly in my mind before I dismissed it. They must have it wrong. He said back then that he didn't know me. He probably wants to bury that shameful past completely, wishing never to see me again. Why would he ever search for me? Turning around, I quickly caught up with my companion, Sheng, and was transferred to the capital to serve as captain of the gate under the Shuangyang battalion. So instead of returning to Huayan, we headed straight for the capital. A month earlier, he had already asked someone to purchase a small courtyard in the capital. The courtyard wasn't large, but it cost us all our savings. It was also in disrepair from years of neglect, so we would need to do some serious renovations after arriving. On the journey back to the capital, I kept discussing plans with Sheng. I said I wanted to raise chickens, and he said okay. I said I wanted to plant flowers, and he said okay. I said I also wanted to set up a swing in the courtyard, and he said okay too. Eventually, I stopped asking. No matter what I suggested, he would always agree. Our return to the capital was faster than I had expected. 20 days after setting out, we were only 50 li away from the capital. Our group was sizable, and settling in would take time, so someone rode ahead at full speed to report our arrival. It was still early, and we had covered much ground, so we paused to rest on the outskirts of the capital. While Sheng and I were fetching water from a nearby river, we suddenly heard a woman's cry for help. Looking up, I saw a woman clutching a piece of driftwood, floating downstream with a pale face, nearly exhausted. Without a second thought, I quickly called to Sheng. Sheng, go, save her. Sheng was a strong swimmer. He shed his outer robe and dove into the water. Fortunately, the current wasn't too strong. Sheng swam to the woman, grabbed the driftwood she was holding, and brought her toward the shore. I breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did I hear the sounds of laughter and conversation coming from upstream. Walking a few steps further, I could see an elaborate tent set up by the riverbank. Nobly dressed young masters and ladies were frolicking by the water. Hey, that maid who fell in earlier hasn't made a sound. Is she all right? Could she be dead? If so, that means I win. She was holding onto driftwood. Wasn't she? She won't die that easily. You can't claim the silver yet. Connecting this to the woman we had just encountered, I drew a sharp breath. They were gambling with human lives. I feared Sheng might be spotted by them and get into trouble. So I was about to go back to find him when I overheard the young masters shift their conversation. Why is the young lord still asleep? Isn't he joining the fun at all? He had another argument with my Lord Marquis last night and is in a foul mood. Best not to provoke him. Their voices dropped to a lower tone. He fled his wedding in public, yet my Lord Marquis didn't even break his legs. It's not like he hasn't been beaten before. A year ago, whether he forgot or something else, he skipped his medicine, had an episode, and slept alone in the reeds all night. Some commoners saw him and shamed the Marquis's household. My Lord Marquis was furious and beat him so badly he couldn't get out of bed. I heard that when he went missing years ago, he actually married some country bumpkin. Shut your mouth. If he hears you, he'll surely turn on you. The young lord denies it ever happened, so we should act as if we know nothing. True, how utterly humiliating. Someone, go check if that maid is dead. Why is there no sound from her? Just then, the servant's voice cut in. Young master, that maid was rescued by someone. The man acted suspiciously, and the guards have already captured him. Hearing this, I looked up in shock and saw Sheng being escorted over by 2 guards. Upon learning their wager had been disrupted, the 2 young masters immediately flew into a rage. Where did this trash come from? One of them rushed forward and kicked Sheng in the leg, forcing him to his knees. Sheng had a straightforward temper, and I feared he wouldn't be able to hold back. So I quickly stepped out and knelt beside him. From their words and demeanor, it was clear these were people we couldn't afford to offend. For now, we had no choice but to endure. I signaled Sheng to stay silent and turned to beg for mercy. Noble sirs, please forgive us. My husband is the newly appointed captain of the gate in the capital. He's new here and unfamiliar with the customs. So, he has offended you. Captain of the gate? The man in the deep purple brocade robe studied us and asked, "Did you return from the northern frontier?" "Yes," I replied with my head bowed. "Our group of 800 comrades is waiting for us not far away." They exchanged a glance but remained silent. After a long pause, someone drawled lazily, "Since you've returned from the northern frontier, you've served the nation with merit. I won't trouble you today. Now, get lost." I breathed a sigh of relief and quickly pulled Sheng and along to express our thanks. The stones on the ground were too hard and sharp. As I stood up, a sharp pain shot through my leg, and Sheng reached out to steady me. He whispered, "Spring, are you all right?" I shook my head, regaining my composure, and was about to leave when hurried footsteps approached from behind. "What did you just call her?" I knew Adrian Liu was here and had hoped to avoid him by leaving quickly. It seems I was too optimistic. We were stopped by his guards as Adrian Liu's voice turned grim. "Turn around." Adrian Liu wore a dark robe, his hair half undone, clothes disheveled, with deep weariness etched on his face. The moment he saw me, a complex emotion clouded his eyes. "Spring, vanished for over a year. I thought you were dead." The malice in his tone was undisguised. Sheng immediately stepped in front of me. The noble young men watching nearby asked, "Spring, young lord, is she that village woman you encountered when you went missing?" Adrian Liu remained silent, his gaze dark and fixed on me. I couldn't quite understand. His expression made it seem as if we shared some deep-seated grudge. But after thinking for a long while, I still couldn't make sense of it. Back then, I had taken him in and never mistreated or beat him. In fact, to buy meat for him, my household expenses had increased significantly. Sheng finally grasped the situation. He cupped his hands in respect. "So it's young Lord Liu. Back then, my wife was struggling alone to keep the household afloat, thanks to your assistance." Before he could finish, Adrian Liu snatched a whip from a guard's waist and lashed it fiercely at Sheng. Crack! A sharp sound rang out. Sheng grunted in pain, blood immediately staining his arm. "Sheng!" I was startled and hurried to check his wound. "Did I speak to you, the young lord?" Adrian Liu glanced sideways at him, his eyes full of arrogance. Only then did I fully realize that the man before me was not the simple and honest Six, but the high-ranking Adrian Liu. Adrian Liu turned his gaze back to me. "Back then, you took 2 taels of silver and said you wanted to cut ties with me. Spring, oh Spring, do you know how long I, the esteemed young lord of the Marquis estate, was mocked for those 2 taels of silver? Am I worth only that much?" So, he held a grudge against me over this matter. I was somewhat bewildered. "If you're angry because of this, then I apologize. I didn't mean to insult you." "Apologize?" Adrian Liu sneered. "Who do you think you are? What is your apology worth?" As he raised his whip again, the other nobles stopped watching the spectacle. "Young lord, this man is the newly appointed captain of the gate. Though it's a minor post, he is still an official. There were many soldiers returned from the northern frontier nearby. If this escalated, it would be hard to contain." Adrian Liu remained silent, yet still swung his whip, and it was aimed at me. Sheng moved to shield me, but I turned and embraced him instead. He was already injured. One more lash might delay his official duties tomorrow. I couldn't risk his future over this. The whip fell slower and lighter, but striking me, I still cried out in pain. "Can't even dodge a slow whip like that. Useless." Adrian Liu watched us coldly. He tossed the whip aside, took a handkerchief from his servant, and leisurely wiped his hands. "What? Not had enough? Get lost." Sheng clenched his fists, glaring fiercely at him, gritting through the pain. I grabbed his wrist. "Sheng, let's go." We walked away slowly, and they showed no restraint, speaking without lowering their voices. Some were saying, "Brother, Liu fled the wedding with the Prime Minister's daughter for this country bumpkin, but now it's clear that's completely baseless." Exactly, though this village girl is somewhat pretty. She's nowhere near as beautiful as Miss Song. Now my Lord Marquis can finally set his mind at ease. Sheng's injuries were more severe than mine. It took 3 days for him to fully recover. He gathered information about Adrian Liu and shared it with me. The Marquis of Lenning holds a high position and great power. Adrian Liu is his only son, on whom he pinned all his hopes since childhood. But Adrian turned out dissolute and eccentric, and with an illness from birth. Over time, the Marquis simply gave up on him. Spring, though, the young lord has some connection to us. He's unpredictable. It's best we avoid any further involvement with him. I changed his bandages and nodded. You're right. And yet, Sheng frowned, his face clouded with worry. I asked, what's wrong? Chaosheng Liu, the Marquis of Lenning, is cruel and vengeful, tolerating no slight. If he believes the rumors that the young lord fled the wedding because of you, he might harm you. But given the young lord's attitude that day, it should have dispelled his suspicions. In any case, Spring, you must be extra cautious during this period. I sense the gravity and concern in his words. I understand. Don't worry, Sheng, and said we should avoid any further involvement with Adrian Liu. But man proposes, God disposes. 2 months later, on a rainy night, Sheng was on duty and had not returned for a long time. I went to the Shuangyang battalion to inquire and learned that a noble had been kidnapped by bandits, and Sheng had been dispatched to rescue them. I felt uneasy, so I couldn't help but ask, which noble is it? Liman sighed. The young lord of Lenning Marquis. Of course, the Marquis has too much blood on his hands. With countless enemies, the young lord has faced countless open and hidden attacks since childhood. It's a miracle he survived. The rain grew heavier, its relentless patter grating on my nerves. I turned to look at the empty streets, my heart pounding fiercely. Even Sheng hadn't expected that he would actually find Adrian Liu. Although the bandits were numerous, they were clearly all bluster, lacking real skill, and easily frightened. A few threats were enough to stir internal strife. They seized the chance to attack, sending the bandits fleeing in all directions. This was a desolate mountain, making it hard to track anyone down. He searched for half the night before finally finding Adrian Liu abandoned in a narrow cave. The cave lay beneath a slope, already flooded by then, its walls slick and slippery, trapping whoever was below. Adrian's clothes were caked in mud, clear evidence of failed attempts to climb out. He looked up and saw Sheng. Despite his wretched state, he hadn't shed the demeanor of the young lord. Talk about a small world. Of all people to run into. He tilted his chin up. You could easily finish me off by tossing rocks down right now. Care to try? Don't you want revenge? Sheng frowned at him, then after a moment crouched down and extended a hand. I'll pull you up. Adrian paused, narrowing his eyes as he studied him. Then, with an unreadable smile, he grasped Sheng's hand. The path down the mountain was treacherous. Adrian Liu's leg was injured, so Sheng supported him by the arm, helping him inch downward step by step. The surroundings were noisy with the rustling of rain, yet it was also quiet, so quiet that only the rain and the squelching sound of their steps on the muddy ground could be heard. Weren't you dead? How did you come back? Adrian Liu's abrupt, out of nowhere question caught Sheng off guard. After a moment, he replied, this humble official was fortunate. I managed to survive on the battlefield. Adrian Liu remained silent for a long while before speaking again. How did you and Spring meet? Sheng didn't mind discussing matters related to Spring with him. In fact, whenever he spoke of her, his tone carried a hint of laughter. We met when we were young. She's 2 years younger and always liked following me around as a child. She's kind, hearted, straightforward, and very beautiful. Sheng smiled somewhat sheepishly. I liked her very much, and she wanted to be my wife. Our families naturally arranged the engagement. Adrian Liu curled his lip disdainfully. What a thoroughly uninteresting story. The rain began to ease, and faint voices of the Marquis guards searching for Adrian Liu could be heard in the distance. Sheng's eyes lit up. Young lord, it's the Marquis men looking for you. Let's go to them. But Adrian Liu stopped and refused to move. Sheng turned back to look at him. Adrian Liu's expression was troubled. I just had a huge fight with my father yesterday. I don't want to go back right now. Then where will you go? Adrian Liu looked up at him, grinning mischievously. I'd like to be a guest at official Anne's residence. I waited in the courtyard until nearly midnight before finally hearing the creak of the gate being pushed open. and I hurriedly rose to greet him. Shung, but I halted mid-step when I saw the person beside him. Adrian Liu was soaked through, with small cuts on his face and hands. A complete mess. He leaned against the doorframe, boldly surveying my home. His eyes were full of curiosity. So small, is this really a place for people to live? Shungen looked a bit awkward and quickly explained to me, the young lord will rest at our place tonight and leave tomorrow. I didn't say anything, just urged them to come inside quickly. Adrian Liu and Shung and changed into dry clothes, while I lit a fire and cooked 2 bowls of noodles for them. I expected Adrian Liu to complain endlessly, but he didn't utter a word, even finishing every last drop of the broth. Once full and satisfied, he seemed to be in a much better mood. He yawned several times in a row. I'm exhausted. Where's my room? He didn't seem as difficult to please as we had imagined. He didn't even mind the straw bed, lying down and quickly falling asleep. Shung and blew out the lamp, gently closed the door, and stepped out. Spring, go get some rest. What about you? Shung and smiled. I'll keep watch outside. With Adrian Liu staying at her home, he still couldn't let his guard down, but he'd been out in the rain for half the night. If he didn't rest soon, his body might not hold up. I reassured him, go rest. It's fine. I'll share a room with you and won't come out. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded in agreement. But as dawn approached, I noticed Shung, and sleeping beside me was burning with fever. He must have caught a chill from the rain. Without overthinking, I hurried to the kitchen to brew him a bowl of ginger soup. I roused his drowsy form and fed him the entire bowl, only then allowing myself a slight sigh of relief. Returning from the kitchen through the courtyard, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing there in my peripheral vision. I nearly screamed in fright. As the sky lightened to a pale dawn, I recognized his face. It was Adrian Liu. He sat on the courtyard swing, and upon seeing me emerge, broke into an instant smile. Sister. My initial unease was now wholly replaced by astonishment. I quickened my pace toward him. How long has it been since the young lord took his medicine? Sister, what are you talking about? Adrian Liu leaped off the swing and promptly wrapped his arms around my waist. 6 is hungry. Sister will make sugar cakes. My heart sank. Oh no, he's really having an episode. Just as I was at a loss, I heard him ask, it's been so long since I've seen Sister. But Sister doesn't seem to miss me at all. I brushed him off casually. I do miss you. Really? Adrian Liu released my waist, stood up, and looked at me with a smile. Sister really missed me? Looking into his eyes, my gaze sharpened, and I retreated several steps. You were faking it? Ha 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 ha. Adrian Liu slapped his thigh laughing until tears came. How are you so easy to fool? What, if I pretend to be that fool, I can hold your waist. If I act a bit more convincing, can I call you wife right in front of your husband? I frowned at him. I really didn't want to waste more words on such a vile person, so I turned to go back inside. Adrian Liu's voice turned cold. Sister is really unfair, so patient with 6, but won't even spare an extra word for me. I paused briefly. But you're not the same person. That was truly how I felt. I genuinely didn't believe they were the same individual. Though 6 was simple-minded, he was inherently kind-hearted, whereas Adrian Liu was a wastrel, no different from those young masters who gambled with human lives. I walked away too quickly to hear his murmured words, but I remember everything he did and said. How could they not be the same person? I had been inside for quite some time before movement stirred beyond the courtyard. Adrian Liu pushed open the gate and left, followed by the sound of a carriage outside. He had been taken back by the Marquis's household. I slowly allowed a breath and turned to feel Shung En's forehead. The fever had already subsided. From that day onward, I never saw Adrian Liu again, though I often heard news of him. The young Lord Liu won again at the gambling den and booked out the entire Spring Wind Pavilion. The young Lord Liu tried to redeem the courtesan's freedom, and my Lord Marquis confined him to the ancestral hall for 3 days. The young Lord Liu was thrown into the military camp by my Lord Marquis for training, but got expelled in less than 3 days. Even if I tried not to listen, his name seemed to pop up everywhere. Shung En has been very busy lately too, leaving early and returning late. His face always etched with weariness. He said the capital is treacherous, with winds of change swirling. A mere gesture from those in power could turn the lives of common folk upside down. On the 12th of July, when Sheng and returned, the collar of his official robe carried the scent of wine. He crouched by the stove, helping me add firewood, the flames casting his brow scar into sharp relief. Today, the estate of Marquis Lenning sent an invitation for the Lotus banquet. My hand stirring the soup ladle paused briefly. Why would a noble house like Marquis Lenning invite a mere captain of the gate? It felt too unusual, and I grew worried. Can you not go? It can't be refused. He tossed another log into the stove. The envoy was the estate's chief steward, accompanied by 8 sword-bearing guards. As the aroma of lotus, leaf chicken filled the air, Sheng and suddenly embraced me from behind. His chin rested on my shoulder, his voice muffled like clouds before a storm. Spring, I don't know why, but I feel uneasy in my heart. The copper spoon clinked crisply against the edge of the pot. I turned and looked into his bloodshot eyes. The kind of panic that never appeared even during food shortages at the northern frontier was now swirling in his pupils. On the evening of the second day, the Marquis's carriage rolled to a stop at our doorstep. Bathed in the glow of sunset, I saw Sheng and onto the carriage. Then I leaned against the courtyard gate, waiting for him, until the third watch of the night, when the night watchman's clapper startled sparrows from under the eaves. I finally heard stumbling footsteps. Looking up, I saw Sheng and staggering back, and I hurried forward to meet him. As I drew closer, I noticed his official robe was torn open 3 inches down the front, with dark red finger marks on his neck. Sheng and led me into the courtyard, then shut the gate firmly behind us. His voice was very low. They want me to open the gate of eternal peace tomorrow, at the hour of the monkey. They promised me the position of Vice Minister of War if I succeed. Otherwise, my heart trembled with shock. Even as an uneducated country girl, I could see exactly what this banquet tonight was meant to be. The Marquis of Lenning is ambitious. He's planning a rebellion. As I wiped the bruise on Sheng En's neck with a damp cloth, I noticed his undershirt was soaked through with cold sweat. The moonlight outside dimmed suddenly. Sheng En pushed me away and retched dryly toward the chamber pot in the corner, only bringing up bile. Spring, to survive, I agreed. He curled on the bed like a fish out of water. But the inner side of the gate of eternal peace has 12 new iron gates. The keys are with the eunuch guard. Cough, the eunuch guard. I can't open the city gates alone. Even if I could, I wouldn't. The panic in Sheng An's eyes faded, replaced by resolve. The Marquis of Lenning is ruthless. If his troops enter the city, the capital will run red with blood. My hand, patting his back, froze mid-air. Sheng En gripped my wrist. Spring, the capital is about to fall into chaos. Tomorrow, I'll protect myself. I threw myself at him, wrapping my arms around him. Mingri, I need you to come back alive. Early the next morning, as roosters crowed one after another, I saw him slip a curved blade from the northern frontier into his official boots. The watchman's clapper at the gate of eternal peace echoed from afar. Sheng En strode through the morning mist toward the city gate. The capital was in chaos. Marquis Lenning had surrounded the imperial palace with troops. His soldiers and the imperial guards stood in tense confrontation, weapons drawn and ready for battle. The city gates were sealed shut, with Marquis Lenning's reinforcements and rescue forces from various factions, all racing toward the capital. It was a race to see who would breach the city first. By evening, loud commotion erupted in the streets. There were shouts from civilians, cries from children, and the clamor of clashing weapons and battle cries. The noise drew closer, and I panicked, hiding in the cellar, only to see the courtyard gate Sheng and had recently reinforced violently hacked open. Fierce-looking soldiers stormed into the yard. They found me quickly. Lady En, come with us. Your husband is being disobedient. The city gates remain unopened. My Lord Marquis has sent us to fetch you. The man grabbed my hair and dragged me out of the cellar. Seeing my face clearly, the rough soldier suddenly smirked ambiguously. Who would have thought Lady En is quite a beauty? As he reached out to grab me, An arrow flew in from outside the courtyard, piercing the man's palm with force. The man fell to the ground, howling in pain. The others turned to look and immediately knelt in unison. The young lord, Adrian Lu, sat astride his chestnut horse, his expression cold as he gazed over. He pointed his longbow toward me. "Lady, and shall be escorted personally by me." Bound hand and foot, I was thrown onto the horse's back. Glaring back at Adrian Lu, I hissed, "This is treason. Have you lost your mind? Didn't you know? My sanity has always been unreliable." He showed neither anger nor irritation, even smiling faintly. He seemed, oddly, more composed than before. "Father intends to use your life to threaten Sheng and into opening the city gates. Time is critical. If his troops cannot enter now, they will soon clash with the arriving tiger. Might army coming to rescue the emperor, outnumbered and armed, it would spell disaster. He's heading this way with his men. To survive, you'd better." Before the words faded, an arrow whistled past my ear and thudded into the ground ahead. Adrian Lu yanked the reins sharply, his horse rearing up with a frightened whinny. I tumbled off, and Adrian leaped down, cutting the ropes binding my hands and feet before shielding me with his body. Marquis Lenning stood not far away, his silver armor stained with blood, the powerful bow in his hand still vibrating. "Traitorous son." Marquis Lenning aimed his arrow at Adrian Lu. "The tiger. My army wasn't due for 3 days. Did you send word ahead?" Adrian Lu's dark robes flapped fiercely in the night wind. "Father, when you taught me history, you said the lowest form of rebellion is one that bathes the city gates in the blood of the people." Silence. Marquis Lenning knocked another arrow. "Ever since you met this peasant woman, you've become less and less a son of the Lu family." The next instant, 3 arrows shot straight toward my face. As Adrian Lu spun and tackled me to the ground, I heard the sound of flesh tearing. An arrow had struck his back, yet he still smiled at me. "Don't worry, I won't die." He rose and looked at the Marquis of Lenning. "A son of the Lu family? Father, I fear you never truly saw me as one. When my madness first struck, to preserve the Marquisate's dignity, you tried to drown me in the pond. It was Mother who saved me by threatening to take her own life. Father, you are disappointed in me, but have I not been equally disappointed in you?" He swayed unsteadily, and I reached out to steady his arm. "Give up, Father. This battle, you have already lost." Deafening shouts erupted from the gate of eternal peace as the heavy iron gates swung open with a thunderous crash. Sheng and stood drenched in blood beside the winch of the portcullis, with the cavalry of the tiger, my army flooding in like a tide behind him. "My lord Marquis, the tiger, my army has entered the city." A blood-soaked scout tumbled from his horse. The Marquis of Lenning loosened his grip, looking up at us in stunned disbelief. His quiver now empty, he suddenly spurred his horse and charged straight toward me. Adrian Lu, his hands stained with blood, abruptly seized the horse's hoof and forcefully flipped the startled steed to the ground. The Marquis of Lenning tumbled into the dust, still intent on fighting, but Adrian Lu stepped forward and struck him unconscious with a swift chop to the neck. In the distance, the troops of the tiger, my army, drew nearer, and I spotted Sheng En at the very front. He was racing swiftly toward me. Adrian Lu hoisted the Marquis of Lenning onto his horse, then swung himself up into the saddle. He glanced down at me, his expression complex. "Go to your husband now. At this moment, he can protect you." I looked up at him. "Where are you going? No matter what, he is my father. I must fight to secure a path to survival for him." With that, Adrian Lu cracked his whip. Hiya! Amid the thunder of hooves, he led the remaining soldiers of the Marquis of Yongning and galloped swiftly toward the western part of the city. After the battle at the Gate of Eternal Peace, the scent of blood hung over the capital for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 7th day, as the morning sun first rose, the emperor issued an imperial decree. The Marquis of Lenning's conspiracy was proven with solid evidence. His 40,000 private troops were fully incorporated. The women of the Marquis household were exiled to Lingnan, and the men were sentenced to execution after autumn. As for the Marquis of Lenning and Adrian Lu, who remain at large, the The court has issued a bounty. Sheng En, having contributed to defending the city, was promoted to commander of Shuangyang Battalion, finally earning a higher salary. Life seemed to settle into tranquility. I don't know how much time passed, so long that Sheng En and I had our first child, and we held a lively first birthday celebration. Sheng En took us back to Huayan to pay respects to our ancestors. On the day we left the capital, 2 yellowed wanted posters were pasted at the city gate. The portrait of Adrian Liu, with his sharp eyes and brows, looked very much like him. I glanced a few more times, and Sheng En took my hand. Why so suddenly downcast? In the past, I thought the young lord of the Marquis household was noble and imposing. But now, looking back, Adrian Liu's life as the young lord was truly pitiable. I wonder how he's doing now. Exiled and on the run, he's been cut off from that precious special medicine. Could he possibly be faring well? 3 days later, we arrived at Huayan County. Passing through a field, we suddenly saw several children picking flowers on the ridge. The children's playful shouts startled the sparrows on the ridge into flight. The road here was difficult for the carriage to traverse. Sheng En helped me down from the carriage. The children glanced at us curiously before turning their full attention back to their own activities. After gathering some fresh flowers and plants, they stood up and called toward a nearby reed thicket. 6, are you done yet? Time to go feed the rabbits. My steps halted abruptly. I hurried over, pulling Sheng En along by the hand. There by the riverside reeds stood a tall figure, clumsily weaving a grass cage. His coarse cloth clothes stained with mud, a fierce old scar visible on the back of his neck. Be careful, wife. Sheng En steadied me as I stumbled. The man turned at the sound, a foolish smile on his grass-strewn face, fireflies flickering within the grass cage in his hand, woven exactly as I had taught 6 all those years ago. The man hopped over, looking at me curiously before handing me the grass cage. For you, holding the grass cage. My thoughts swirled. Do you know me? He shook his head. But you're pretty, like my sister. 6, come back. Don't talk to strangers. The group of children called out to him from the field ridge. Without another word to us, he quickly ran toward them. The accompanying village chief noticed and hurried over to explain. He said this was a simpleton who drifted here 2 years ago, arriving with a lame father. His father had a terrible temper, beating or scolding him constantly. When we tried to intervene, he threatened to behead us all. The father likely had delusions of grandeur, believing himself nobility. Not long after, the lame father hanged himself one night, laughing and crying hysterically, leaving this simpleton behind. He helps villagers chop wood and herd cattle, and they collectively care for him. He's lived off their kindness these 2 years, surviving well enough. I glanced back at Sheng En, our eyes meeting. We both saw a trace of melancholy in each other's eyes. As dusk fell, I invited 6 and the group of children to my home for dinner. 6 crouched by the stove, watching me make sugar pancakes. His expression was utterly focused, eyes unblinking. Is it sweet? I handed him the first sugar pancake. His mouth was full of sugary crumbs when he suddenly offered the remaining piece to me. Sister, you have some too. His eyes were as clear as the mountain sprang on the day we first met. Sheng En gently held my trembling hand. I left some silver with the village chief. They'll take care of him after we're gone. After the meal, Sheng En and I took them to see the fireflies. In the reed marshes, thousands of fireflies danced in the moonlight, as if the Milky Way had poured down to earth. 6 stared in awe, suddenly clapping and exclaiming, "Lanterns!" The other children looked puzzled. What lanterns? Like lanterns stuffed inside tiny flying bugs.